Here we are. Here's our mummy and our daddy. And then there's us, the newborn child. Right. At the moment that I'm conceived, what happens? What happens is that I begin absorbing from my environment the emotional condition and therefore the belief systems and everything of the environment, which primarily are my family. Right? So they influence me. Now let's look at what's happening from an energetic level, so a metaphysical level rather than an emotional one. It would be far better, by the way, for you to understand it from an emotional perspective than metaphysical, but sometimes when we see the metaphysical thing going on, we start to understand what's actually happening. My mother has a spirit body, does she not? She also has a soul. So let's draw her soul like that surrounding her. All right? And my father has a spirit body and a soul, so let's draw his soul surrounding him. Now, they're both halves of a soul. They may not be soulmates, or they may be, it doesn't really matter. They both have half of a soul, and they have their soul. The soul is emanating all of this energy. This energy comes out of the soul, and the soul actually controls what actually happens to the spirit form, and the spirit form then controls what happens to the physical body. So many of the diseases you can catch are resulting around energetic disturbances in your spirit body, as you well know, right? But let's look at what's happening at a soul level. At a soul level, what's happening is I have got different disharmonies and harmonies within me. The harmonies, when I say harmonies, I'm talking about the things that are harmonious with God's laws of love. And then there are different emotions in me that are totally disharmonious with God's laws of love. Agreed? So we've got these truth-based emotions which are harmonious with love. We've got these error-based emotions which are still within me that I believe to be true, which are disharmonious with love. So, as we've always drawn, we've got these influences of truth and error on my soul. And this is everyone, not just me, but everyone around me too. Now, the way God created you is very, very clever. Every single thing that's harmonious with love that you have inside of you as an emotion automatically protects you. And every single thing that you have that's disharmonious with love inside of you as an emotion automatically makes you vulnerable to external attack. Does that make sense? Can I repeat it? Every single thing inside of you that is harmonious with truth and love, so any harmony with truth and love, and I'm talking about God's truth here, with divine truth, that's inside of you and inside of your soul. Remember, everything that's inside of your soul is an emotion, so truth is an emotion inside of you. So everything that's harmonious with divine truth and divine love inside of you automatically protects you from any harm from the external environment. Right? This is one of the key things to understand. See, many of us don't even believe this. Let's face it, many of us believe totally opposite. But we'll confront those emotions as we go. Any harmony with divine truth inside of my soul automatically offers me protection. And let's just rub out Dad for a moment. Sorry, Dads. Any disharmony with love or truth automatically opens me up to attack. Right? So in other words, what's the opposite of protection? Vulnerability to attack. Is there one word for that? Danger. Okay, let's call it danger, shall we?
Exposure, yeah.
Danger, exposure, yeah. So now God created this system for a lot of reasons. one of the primary ones is that because of the pain we feel, because of the danger, we automatically can understand, once we understand the law, we automatically understand that actually if I'm in pain and I feel danger, then it's because I'm vulnerable and it's because I've got a belief that's out of harmony with truth. The beauty of it is, in the end, when you release all of your disharmony with divine truth inside of yourself, at that point in time you are also now completely fearless. Because there's nothing that you could ever make you afraid. Does that make sense? Because you are now fully protected. And it's not a thought. It's not something you manufacture by surrounding yourself with white light or anything like that. It's this emotion in you that you now know for certain that there's nothing that can harm you. And the truth is, in that moment, there is nothing that can harm you if you're in that state where everything is harmonious with divine love. And what happens from a metaphysical perspective is you could think of the emotions that are harmonious with divine truth and love as this great big barrier of beautiful white light that emanates from your own soul that surrounds your person. All right? And when it's completely harmonious with divine love, all of it, there will be no holes or cracks in that protective barrier. Do you follow me? No holes or cracks in that protective barrier. But what happens is the majority of us start off with a lot of error because of the emotion that gets bombarded from the environment from the time we're conceived. And instead of having this nice, smooth, very thick wall of protection, and by the way, it's actually, the way you feel it is not like a wall of protection because you're totally open to everything, but none of it affects you. Right? But instead of having this wall of protection around you, what happens is we've got great big gaping holes in this wall of protection where energy can enter us from outside of us, from our environment. You follow me? So now, instead of this nice, great big barrier surrounding our soul where nothing can actually permeate through it and harm us emotionally, and remember that really all pain comes from, in the end, being harmed emotionally in some way. None of that, once that barrier is removed, now I've got all these different energy. You could think of it as actually, and you do see this, by the way, when you're in the soul state and in the spirit state in the higher levels of the spirit world, you actually see the fissures and cracks in the person's body, and you know what emotions are associated with those fissures and cracks in the body. Does that make sense? And at times, many of the spirits in the lower spheres, up until the seventh, one of the main reasons why they desire to progress is because they see their own, in the mirror, they see their own cracks in their own body, and they can see how ugly that is. And so they desire to progress. Now, all these fissures and cracks are in our emotional state. So let's say that's the child now, so that's me. It's not me because she's a lady, but anyway. And she's got now all of these places where she's vulnerable to attack. Not just from a person physically, but from events even. That will, when I say vulnerable to attack, these events will confront her emotionally so that she can seal up one of those holes. That's the purpose of it, right? Now, you imagine that's Mum. And here's Dad again. So draw Dad back in this picture. So Dad's over here. And Dad's got the same thing going where he's got all of these areas that are unhealed within him, different areas of course, that are unhealed within him emotionally. So he's got some of it's there, right? Some of it's there, but parts of the holes where energy, things can enter him and harm him. And Mum's got that happening too, and here's me. Now, let's see what. I might need to get 2 new batteries if I can too, Mary. They're in that blue bag. Thanks, mate. So now, just imagine, there's me, this child that's been conceived, and I've got my mum, who's got a lot of unhealed emotions and therefore a lot of cracks and holes in her energetic system emotionally. And then I've got Dad, and he's unhealed emotionally, and he's got lots of cracks and holes in his system emotionally. Of course, what I'm going to have is like almost a combination of those two, isn't it? In terms of I'm going to have quite a lot of different areas in my spirit form. Now, what I'm going to do is just illustrate a couple of those areas. Mum may have an emotion where she or some of her predecessors have been raped by a man or abused sexually by a male, that she has yet to heal inside of herself emotionally. Right? So there's some sexual things going on for Mum. Dad may have a feeling that he's a man and he can get sex whenever he wants. So that's his unhealed emotion that's inside of him. What's going to be inside of me? It's going to be a bit of a mess, isn't it, when it comes to sexuality? Can you see that? There's going to be quite a number of different holes in there. Let's say Mum was actually sexually abused when she was older, and instead of me being male as the child, I am a female, right? And, sorry about that, the dress is a bit short, and not much point in having a dress like that on, is there? And Dad, let's say Dad has the viewpoint that women are there for a man's pleasure. And I'm a girl, like growing up in that environment. Can you see I'm going to have lots of different holes and cracks in my protective shield that's around me? Can you see that? Now, my mum may be dedicated 100% to protecting me sexually because of her own abusive experience. But do you know she's not going to be able to protect you from spirits abusing you sexually? Okay? Until both these parents heal those emotions, the child can't be protected spiritually from those events. And the only persons that can help you is some guide or guardian who's a guardian or guide of this child. So they are the only people who are in the mix trying to protect the child. But it's very, very hard to protect somebody who's got all of these gaps in their own armour. Now, in the Bible, for those of you who have a Christian background, Paul, the Apostle Paul, called this barrier that surrounds you, he called it your suit of armour. And really, in a way, that's what it is. Can you see that? It's your protection of these external things going on. And he actually said in one of his presentations that he had to I think it was the Ephesian congregation, he actually said that this suit of armour, well, quite a few of you, a bit confronted by me bringing up the Bible again. You need to deal with that emotion, right? And he actually said that one of the biggest problems you will ever face in your progression on the divine love path is spiritual attacks. Now, the reason why is quite simple. You can't see them. You see, when a person on earth comes up and attacks you, you can see them, can't you? And in many cases, you can put distance between you and them, can you not? You can get away from it in many cases. I'm not saying in every case, but in many cases you can. So you have a method of physically acting in order to get away from the attack. Do you follow me? But when it comes to these spirits influencing you, what methods do you have available to you? You can't avoid them, can you? They're able to travel wherever you go. They're able to see whatever you do. Can you see that?